Since the beginning of March, 7 bodies have turned up in Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. In some corners of social media, like Facebook, the idea that a serial killer could be on the prowl in New England is getting more popular. So far, law enforcement is not connecting the cases.
Welcome back to Missing and Crawl Space. What you just heard was a news segment from Boston 25's Bob Ward, speaking about a possible unknown serial killer in New England. Welcome back to the show. I'm Tim, here today with Lance. Lance, how are you today?
I'm doing very well. Pretty rare that we hear Welcome to Crawl Space and Missing in the same intro. That's because we have something special today. It's a special report. And that's the only words that we can think of to put this story out there as soon as we possibly can, because in this world, true crime news breaks. It breaks quick, and our job is to try to get ahead of it, try to put this information in front of people. But Tim, how are you feeling today?
Doing pretty good over here. Yeah, definitely interested in this story and want to discuss it and kind of suss out some of these details. See what we think, see what the audience thinks. I kind of know what the people of New England think based on these social media posts. So today, Lance, we're talking about the possibility of a serial killer in New England, a new and recent one. There have been several bodies. Remains of 6 people have been uncovered in towns across New England in the span of just 1 month. So that's March and April 2025. So pretty startling information there. A little hard to tell how abnormal that is, though.
I think it's the period of time in which these bodies are found. They're all found within a few weeks of each other. All of these have been discovered within the first, 4 weeks between the beginning of March and the beginning of April. So the latest one, according to the news feed, unless you've seen something different, was April 9th.
Yeah, that's what I see here.
And that is a unnamed and very little information on this deceased individual. No gender or age.
Okay, so let's go through all this chronologically, but we're going to break quick for commercial here. Just so everyone knows, this is airing on both Crawl Space and Missing, so you may see it on both if you're a follower of both, but if you're not, maybe you want to follow the other show. They're both great. Okay, so let's take a quick break here, and we'll be right back. Okay, so we are discussing these bodies found across New England. So March 6th, there were 2 bodies found, as you mentioned, Lance. There was a woman named Paige Fannon. She was recovered by Norwalk, Connecticut's police scuba team and their fire rescue team on March 6th.
Right.
So she was a resident of West Islip on Long Island in New York and was reported missing in New York before she was later found. So it's a little hard to tell if this death was suspicious or not.
Right. She was last seen on March 5th. A day after she was reported missing in New York. So she was reported missing. She was last seen, according to this article from People magazine and also all of the other associated presses. The day after she was reported missing in New York, she was last seen on March 5th, and the body was discovered on March 6th. And I just want to give a side note here. There is a GoFundMe for Paige Fannon, her family, so that they are able to have the proper funding to do whatever they need to do in order to put Paige to rest and have some sort of closure. And that's GoFundMe.com in loving memory of Paige. I'm going to just spell this because I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Aliehs. That's her middle name, Fannon. So we'll put the links as well. But if anybody wants to contribute to that, they've already crushed their goal, but hey, keep it coming.
Absolutely, yeah. And Paige was a beloved daughter, sister, cousin, niece, and her friend has launched the GoFundMe. It's raised over $14,000 at the time of this recording. So then also on March 6th, but this was in Plymouth, Massachusetts. This was 178 miles east of Norwalk, Connecticut. So, that's like a 3-4 hour drive there. And so this person is unnamed, and there's no information on gender or age. This was basically bones that were discovered in the woods by a hunter. They found the top half of a human skull with its jaw and nasal area missing.
There's no further information on this, which doesn't really indicate right now that the body of Paige and this body are connected. Very far apart. One was discovered very soon after she disappeared, so Paige Fannon was discovered just a couple of days after she disappeared. This one looks like a lot of decomposition has taken place, a lot of dismemberment has taken place, or a lot of maybe wear due to weather, animals, but there's been a lot of breakdown on this body.
Yeah, absolutely. Impossible to tell right now if there was foul play suspected.
That's correct. And the remains were found by a hunter, so this could be a coincidence. Paige Fannon's body is discovered. Then the same day, by coincidence, another body is discovered by a hunter. That happens a lot. But we can see two bodies in the same day in a remotely, similar area, New England. We'll say New England. Just keep it in that circumference, that radius for now. But no alerts. No one's radar is going up yet to a significant degree.
And then on March 19th in Groton, Connecticut, authorities recovered a body inside a suitcase near a cemetery. State police told People magazine that they don't believe there's any information suggesting a connection to the discovery of other remains. And Groton's police chief urged people not to rush to judgment. And Groton is about 80 miles east of Norwalk, which is where Paige was found. So again, not very close, but this sure seems like foul play.
I think the suitcase indicates that there was some level of foul play. There was a Reddit commenter who said, inside of a suitcase, not cool. So I agree with that Redditor that, yes, a body inside of a suitcase is not cool, and it's indicative of foul play. And with the other two bodies and the second one being in a state of decomposition the way it was and not being able to be identified. Same thing with this one, unidentified female, 40 to 60 years old. There was a little part of me that started thinking, is somebody now getting rid of their bodies? Have they done this a long time ago within the past decade or so, and now they're depositing the bodies because maybe they got a little bit lazy with the work that they did with Paige Fannon? And that was the little tiny part of me that was thinking about it, but I can't help that from entering into my mind.
Well, this unnamed female is between the ages of 40 and 60 with light pigmented skin. They also believe the victim may have had Turner syndrome, which includes symptoms such as short stature, broad chest, short wide neck, and small chin, which can be identifying, and that's why we're mentioning it here. But there were also some rumors online swirling about a suspicious man at Bluff Point State Park on April 3rd. And so Groton police were taking tips about that, and apparently someone said that this suspicious man had a knife, unconfirmed at this point. And Groton police are also investigating a disappearance of a man named Stephen Gush, who went missing on March 29th and is yet to be found. Kind of a bigger man, 6'2", 230 pounds, around 38 years old, last seen March 29th, 2025, actually in Ledyard, Connecticut, but all pretty close. So we'll keep an eye on that case as well.
For sure. And the person who said that they saw an individual with a knife, there's a quote in this article from News 8 that is a portion of the call that apparently went into the police department in Groton. This is a quote. "I went back around, turned the other way. He went back the other way, and then he started walking back as I turned around to walk back to the car." So that was just a portion of the call. But yeah, apparently the person was rumored to have a knife or a switchblade.
No other news on this particular body found at this point other than our speculation. But it seems like pretty solid speculation that this was a murder victim.
I agree. I also agree that the police chief urging people not to, quote, rush to judgment is the police chief trying to get out ahead of what he's already seeing and hearing amongst the masses, not so much like the mainstream media, but I can imagine that he's got some sort of finger on the pulse of what is being discussed on social media about this. I think serial killer had started to be like thrown out there at this point.
Absolutely. Definitely on social media, and that's typically where some kind of drum beats start. Yeah. But it has been covered by more mainstream media recently, but it sure seems like this is really reaching far on social media. A lot of shares, a lot of likes on stories regarding this. So we kind of owe it to ourselves and our audience to look into it a little bit.
Yeah. And right off the top, I mean, maybe not right off the top, but at this moment, I'll just say people should start to become aware of their surroundings. Stay safe out there. I mean, we don't know. We have our opinions, but now we're seeing a body inside of a suitcase near a cemetery, 2 other bodies. So, just a general blanket. Hey, keep your head on a swivel.
And then on March 20th in New Haven, Connecticut, authorities found the body of Denise Liry. And she had been missing since September of 2024. And she was discovered in a wooded area near a home. So not the woods, not like a forest, but in the woods near a home. In an advanced state of decay is what the police said. And police also claim that Liry suffered from paranoid schizophrenia. And New Haven is about 156 miles west of Plymouth and about 50 miles west of Groton. And I did look into this case a little bit, Lance, and it was a pretty mysterious disappearance from the get-go because she seemed to have jumped out her window.
Yeah, she climbed out her window using some form of a cable.
Yeah, and locked the bedroom door behind her.
Right.
So when her son attempted to open the door, to knock on her door, she was not there. And they called paramedics who opened the door and found that she was not in the room at all. But they did find evidence that she may have climbed out of the window using a cable. Yeah.
And there were, I think, footprints on the ground, right?
Yes, so also footprints on the ground. So authorities say their investigation, quote, has not indicated evidence of foul play, end quote, at this point.
Right. There was a moment a few nights prior to her disappearance, and this is from an NBC News article. So Joshua Webb, Denise's son, had said that he had found her behavior concerning. This is a few nights before she disappeared, and this is his quote from that article. Around 10:30 p.m., she said she was going out. Still quoted, she was like, "Turn my location off on my phone," end quote. And then quoting again, "So I tried to look out the window to see who was picking her up." So apparently around 10:30 p.m., he was under the impression that his mom was going out, didn't want to be located. So she told him to turn the location off on her phone, and apparently someone was picking her up. He said that he couldn't see who was picking his mother up, but she did return home safe that night. It was a few days later where he had knocked on the bedroom door. There was no answer, and I can't even imagine the the feeling. Someone, I don't care how old you are, like you're knocking on your mom's bedroom door and there's no answer, and time goes by and you have to call your grandmother to come over, and when they finally get into the room, they realize that it was locked from the inside and she wasn't in there. So, I mean, we're already like, this is a very tragic situation as we're talking through it.
Scary and tragic.
Yeah.
No signs necessarily of foul play, but still unclear on what happened to Denise. Okay, that brings us to March 26th in Foster, Rhode Island. A woman named Michelle Romano, 56 years old, was found 8 months after she disappeared, and her remains were found in a wooded area, and investigators began looking into the suspicious circumstances surrounding her death. There's a little bit here from People magazine. A man in the neighborhood said that his dog may have noticed the remains before they were found by the individual who ended up reporting it. And the quote here, "I know my dog has been acting strange when he comes out here," end quote. But that was the neighbor, Tom Slater. He says he's always sniffing over that way. I don't know how long the body has been over there, but he would pick up on it. And Foster is about 89 miles northeast of New Haven. So again, nothing super close tying these bodies together. You know, this is a lot of driving going on here if we're talking about one killer.
Yeah. Again, there's that little small part of me that's thinking like it's the right amount of driving if you want to spread out the remains of the individuals that you have, perpetrated these crimes on, and not just left them in one area. So it kind of spreads out the triangulation of trying to figure out who this person is. But, I think personally speaking, I'm not leaning towards serial killer right now, but it is interesting that these bodies are coming up within a few weeks of each other, within like 1 week of each other, one after the other. And in the case of Michelle Romano, her family does have a Facebook, Justice for Michelle Romano. So that's on Facebook, and they have a statement that they wrote on April 1st when the day after, I believe, they received the news that their mother had been found. At least that's what the post says on April 1st. And they say yesterday the family received the news about about Michelle being found, and they requested privacy. So the only thing beyond what we're going to talk about here is that she was found, and the number that they give here, if there's any information that people would have on Michelle's death, they want individuals to call the Rhode Island State Police at 401-647-8039, and you can remain anonymous. But again, I think it goes without saying that all the families in these situations probably want to have some degree of privacy, and what, again, we're trying to do here is, I guess, respectfully deliver this breaking news story.
In pulling links for the description here for this episode, I did see that Michelle Romano's family made another statement on April 15th, so just about a week ago, and said they would appreciate it if people on social media and other platforms would stop making false statements that Michelle is in any way the victim of a serial killer. Says, please stop posting our Michelle's photos and trying to group her in with an alleged serial killer, as that is absolutely not the case. So it sounds like the family has some known person or persons in mind, and they also share the phone number 401-468-4233. So on April 9th in Killingly, Connecticut, which is a little bit further north, it's about 84 miles from New Haven, Connecticut. It's close to the Rhode Island and Massachusetts borders. There was another body found, unnamed, no information on gender or age, but found by the Connecticut State Police, and they said the investigation is in the early stages. It remains active and ongoing, and there's no information at this time suggesting any connection to similar remains discovered actively under investigation by Connecticut State Police or other Connecticut law enforcement agencies.
Okay, so what we have here are 6 bodies, 3 that have been identified and 3 that at this point are not identified. I didn't want to say beyond identification because they'll eventually make a match here, but I can imagine that all of the usual organizations are mobilizing their resources to make sure that these individuals who have not been identified will eventually become identified. I can't imagine that Othram Labs isn't somehow being contacted about these 3 bodies. I think the first thing that law enforcement has to say is that in the early stages, the investigation is active and ongoing, and there's no information that links any of these bodies to one another other than the time frame that they were found. This area, for anybody who doesn't know or who, anyone who's not familiar with New England, this is all southeastern New England. This does not travel up into Vermont. It does not run alongside the Connecticut River Valley, because I have seen that the Connecticut River Valley killer has been brought into the conversation. That was more like, mid-Vermont, New Hampshire state line area along Highway 91. And this all runs along the southeast coast and then a little bit northwest, once you get into Connecticut with Killingly and Foster. And then we go to Plymouth, Massachusetts, which is the town right before you enter Cape Cod. So that is definitely coastal. And then Framingham is more western in Massachusetts, but not deep west. It's still remaining more eastern in the southeastern part of New England. And we'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
Thanks to our sponsors, and now we're back to the program. There's also this Facebook group that is mentioned in some of these articles. Right. It's called New England SK. That's the name of the group, SK for serial killer. It is a private group on Facebook, only 18,000 members at this point. I joined this morning, Lance, and I'm just kind of perusing the group a little bit. And so it's really people talking back and forth. Actually, I see Brittany T's name come up here. So people are kind of just brainstorming in this group. Obviously, if you're talking about a serial killer being active in an area, then you're going to look at other missing persons cases that are in similar areas, and you're going to wonder or consider those. So that's probably why Brittany T's case is mentioned in here. It would be kind of in a little north of the pocket of most of the bodies that had been found.
So I think we're at the tipping point here in the conversation where we start bringing up other people being missing. And it's by we're not trying to, and when I say we, not just you and I, the general public starts discovering these other individuals. And we brought up Stephen Gush because that was part of the research. His name came up, and now we're getting into Brittany T. So that's where it starts to feel like the balloon's inflating and inflating. So we just want to be clear that we're not saying every single individual that has ever gone missing in this area is connected. These are just the names that come up as you start digging into it, and you have to kind of, focus. You have to adjust your focus on what is currently being released for news.
Right. And so this Facebook group definitely has some creepy posts as far as people kind of trying to suss out whether or not there's a serial killer in New England. There's a photo that someone posted of a man in the woods. Looks like he's wearing a gray mask. Actually, it looks quite spooky. Definitely no confirmation that this is connected to anything, but I think, like Facebook groups go, there's brainstorming, right? And that's what it is. And certainly this person in this picture cannot be identified, but it is a spooky photo, to say the least.
And I'll just try to advise people, I don't want to be preachy or anything like that, but there are families who are connected to these victims. And if you are posting creepy poems and claiming that it's something it's not, then you're really not doing anybody any service, including yourself. So if you have the urge to do that, please refrain from doing that. And Tim, this is breaking news during breaking news. You just sent me the image of this person with a leather face mask.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a leather face mask with glasses over it.
Yeah. I don't know. It could be some sort of protection for insects that one would wear over their head like a hood or something. But it is an eerie picture. This person who was apparently captured on a game camera, and it was from the Great Cedar Swamp in Carver. So Carver is just southwest of Plymouth, Massachusetts.
Yeah, definitely some unconfirmed rumors and things like that. But again, I don't want to make it seem like I'm annoyed by this group. I'm not at all. It's brainstorming.
Yeah, it's brainstorming. Yep.
Yeah, Abby Flynn comes up here in this group as well, and that was a woman that we covered a couple years ago who went missing from Gloucester, Massachusetts. She was 59 when she went missing before a Super Bowl party on Sunday, February 2nd, 2020. That was from Gloucester, Massachusetts. So other missing persons flyers are posted here. There's a story about a violent man who was granted a release. Obviously, I'm not going to give that person's name out right now. I mean, there's like no end to the speculating you can really do on this, right? You can group all these missing persons together if you want. So yeah, to your point, just be careful with this information. You don't want to hurt families accidentally or intentionally.
Right, correct.
The New Bedford Highway serial killer is responsible for the deaths of at least 9 women between March of 1988 and April of 1989. He remains unidentified, and our friend Maureen Boyle is a great author, and she wrote a book about this unknown serial killer called Shallow Graves. And we actually just replayed that episode on Missing just recently, just in the last few weeks. But here's a clip of Boston 25's Bob Ward speaking with Maureen Boyle about this new potential serial killer in New England.
In the late 1980s, a serial killer struck the New Bedford area. 9 women murdered, 2 missing. Author Maureen Boyle covered the case at the time and wrote a book about it. She is skeptical that a new serial killer might be at work right now.
Just because you have bodies found in a variety of places in New England, that does not mean that there's a serial killer on the loose in the area.
Boyle is concerned that online speculation can hurt people.
This is not a game. These involve real people, these involve real families. This is serious business.
So I think what Maureen says is 100% accurate. Obviously, this is not a game. These are real lives that we're speaking about, and there's no evidence that there is a serial killer on the loose in New England. And in fact, probably only 2 of those bodies, those remains that we found, were definitely, foul play, were suspicious circumstances. Maybe there's more, but that's unconfirmed at this point, so I'm not going to rush to judgment on the other cases, but certainly you found in a suitcase that would suggest foul play. Also, Denise Liry's death could be seen as suspicious, not knowing who she was spending time with, but then, of course, authorities said she was suffering from paranoid schizophrenia, so I just am not sure what to make of her case at this point.
Right, and I'm glad that you played that clip from Maureen Boyle, because she has done an extensive amount of research on serial killers, and she is just basically stating the obvious and wanting to emphasize the obvious. Don't rush to judgment. This is a story that involves not only victims, but victims' families that we want to be very protective of. And also, again, that being said, we have an obligation to put information out there about something that's developing in this true crime world that we're a part of, and there are a number of bodies that are found throughout the country in clusters in certain areas over the course of a condensed amount of time, like a couple weeks or a few months. And it's just interesting to me that these bodies are the ones that are being highlighted right now, as opposed to any other bodies that might have been found in this area or in another area. I don't know why. I don't know why it caught the zeitgeist for today or for the past month, but it has, and it's going to be a challenging tightrope to walk to deliver the information, as well as not fully speculate it or give in to speculation, because I don't think speculation's bad. Just don't give in to it.
Right. Yeah. Don't give into it. But I will say, just adding on top of that, like a lot of times in serial killer cases, victims are found in different jurisdictions, and someone has to make those connections, because a lot of times the authorities, they're not calling the other jurisdictions. So in a lot of these cases, like famous serial killer cases, like it was journalists who connected the dots. That these victims were met by foul play from the same perpetrator. So, again, like, make it helpful speculation, I guess,
Right. All right, well, things are developing.
Yeah, we'll keep our eye on this case, and we will likely bring in some experts for interviews on this story as it develops.
All right, again, stay safe.
All right, thanks a lot for listening. Follow us on social media at Crawlspace Podcast and at Missing CSM. Thanks a lot for listening.